Hello and welcome to a new episode of Readings That Heal with me, Marissa of Marissa Moments. This is where you will be triggered into your awakening and then your connection. Now, when I say connection, sure, we're talking divine connections external to yourself, but we're mainly talking about connection back to source, connection back to self, recognizing the divinity within, recognizing your intuitive guidance system, recognizing the power that you always held the entire time that may have been triggered, traumatized, or programmed out of you. So we are getting right back to that place and space. But however, this podcast does come with a warning. Do understand that this is about divine accountability and being able to look at yourself in the mirror, doing the shadow work, taking accountability, like I said, and then moving on from there as it resonates. So if this does not sound like some place that you are ready to visit, then I will give you a moment to exit the room with love. Okay, so here's the thing, right? I always love switching up formats, right? Because I like to see what works, what doesn't work. And when I say what works and what doesn't work, that doesn't necessarily mean for the audience, right? Now, that's no shade to you. I love you. I'm so happy that you're here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for walking with me. But the reason why I'm sharing this is because the singular word that has been put on my heart to share and to speak about is perfection, right? So I led into talking about perfection by saying how I always love to change things up, right? Even with this format, me saying we're going to lead off by a singular word, because that's what I feel in my heart that I need to kind of focus on. So that way, you know what we're talking about. So again, today we're talking about perfection, right? Now, what God has put on my heart to share, and as a disclaimer, as a side note, you may hear some construction noises. They're building a house next door. Now that's a word in itself. They're building, right? Anyway, let's stay focused. Perfection. So here's the thing, right? There's been so many years in my life that I would choose not to do something that I really, really wanted to do because it needed to be perfect, right? It needed to be perfect. If it couldn't be perfect, then I'm not going to do it, right? Let's take the first time I tried Zumba, right? I went with a friend of mine, right? We said, let's meet up at the gym. We're going to take this Zumba class. It'll be fun, right? And for whatever reason, she couldn't join at the last minute. And I was like, oh my God. Now, as a quick side note, I would say I suffer from anxiety, but I am built up with anxiety despite of anxiety, right? So I barely wanted to go on my own in the first place, right? And so when she said she couldn't make it, my stomach dropped. I was like, oh my God, I got to go to the bathroom. This isn't right. I'm scared. What is going to happen? But you know what? I pushed myself and I said, Marissa, you're going to do this anyway, right? And I did. Now, was it great? No, not even a little bit. Let me just tell you, you know that GIF or reel or however you want to call it of Lucille Ball in a dance class she's going left, they're going right, she's going left, every which way but the correct way, right? The air quotes correct way. That was me, if you could envision it, except we're doing salsa at like 22 miles per hour and the class is jam-packed, music blaring through the speakers. And I'm just sweating and trying to keep up and losing my breath and trying to smile, even though my smile was turning into a frown. You ever smile so long that the corners of your mouth start to twitch? And then all of a sudden it starts to kind of melt down into a frown and you quietly want to cry, but then you're trying to hang on to that smile. Yeah, that was that situation, right? That was me in that first Zumba class. But then I decided to keep going. Because then she was able to meet up with me the next class and then the next class, right? So she stuck it out and we stuck it out together for a couple of classes and then she got busy again. But you want to know what happened? I kept going. Do you think I was good in that second class? Not even close. Do you think I was good in that third class? Not even close. But I kept going. Something in my spirit told me, Marissa, this is going to be good for you if you could just get over yourself. If you could just get beyond that notion of perfection, which we all know. And if you don't know, I'm about to tell you, perfection is not a realistic state of being, right? We can be air quotes, perfect within our imperfections, but we will never meet that zenith place of existence because we always have some room to grow, some room to expand, some room to just evolve, right? And if we're not, then we're probably 6 feet under or cremated or however you plan on going in the afterlife, right? Now, we're talking about perfection though, right? Now, had I stuck to that stance and viewpoint of having to be perfect within that first class, then I wouldn't be here. This is probably about 5 or 6 years later, still taking Zumba and loving it, right? But you want to know something now? I just started a couple of new Zumba classes because I love just trying different places and spaces because it allows me to meet new people and just expand, right? So I went to this new class, which, by the way, as another side note, I always like to walk to places if I can, right? I think it's just from childhood. We didn't have a car until I was about 16. So I would either be on public transportation or I would be walking everywhere I went. And my calves are the proof of it, right? And so I decided, you know what, I'm going to walk to this new Zumba class, which turned out to be about a half-hour walk that I was not prepared for in about 90-degree weather. Whoo, talk about exercise before you exercise, right? But anyway, I digress. So I went into this course, and then there was a couple of other women who mainly spoke Spanish. And at the end of it, or even halfway through, the instructor pauses or stops the music, and she asks me, she looks at me, "Where are you from?" And I'm like, "Huh? Earth." Right? Because I never know how to respond to that question. And she's like, "Because I see you moving them hips, girl. Yeah, I see you doing all those things." And then another woman chimes in and she's like, "You're good. Right?" Now, mind you, this is like 5 to 6 years later where I'm receiving these compliments on a course that I just walked into off the street, right? They didn't know me. I didn't know them. They have no reason to lie to me. They have no reason to gas me up, right? They reap no benefit, no reward on giving me false accolades. However, if I hadn't stuck it out through that first class, and then that second, and then that third, and then that first year, and etc., then I would have never gotten to this place and space where I feel more confident in myself, and I'm able to pick up the dance moves very, very quickly now, almost to the point where if someone else walks in and sees me in that class, they're going to think, "Man, she must have been taking this class for years," right? Because she knows this choreography, even though secretly, no, I don't. I'm just learning it as I go ahead, right? And that's a whole word in itself because we're talking about what? We're talking about perfection. Perfection often, just the notion of it, prevents us from walking into our blessings, prevents us from carrying on down a path that we are meant to be on because we feel like, you know what? People are going to make fun of me. People are going to stare at me. People are going to judge me when in fact, maybe they will. But who cares, right? It's more so you're worried about your own personal judgments. The times that you get in your head and say, "I'm not good enough. I can't do this. People are staring at me." You know what? A lot of times, that is based out of childhood programming, adolescent programming, teenage programming, whatever it is. Maybe somebody told you can't do it. I grew up and people would tell me all the time that I had no rhythm. You have no rhythm, so they would call me rhythmless nation, right? And I believed it. I integrated it. I internalized it to the point where I didn't want to dance, even though in my spirit, that's all I really craved. That's all I wanted to do. I wanted to dance, but I got so afraid that I prevented myself from even taking that chance because one, I needed to be perfect, right? Because I feared that judgment coming back to me. And then it got to the point where I wasn't worried about the external judgment. I was more worried about my own personal judgment because I was rhythmless, right? Now, I'm just using this dance class as an illustration to help you understand that this is bigger than just a singular class, right? The notion of perfection will prevent you from beginning that business. The notion of perfection will prevent you from advancing your education. The notion of perfection will prevent you from speaking to that person who is your potential husband, spouse, partner, whatever it is, right? because we get in our own ways based off of our toxic programming, based off of our generational curses. Now, keep in mind that the people who told you these things, they were, listen, I'm on the fence where what I receive is like they knew, but they didn't know, right? In terms of what they were doing to you, because sometimes they do know and it's purposeful, and sometimes they don't realize it. They just think they're being funny, right? But the bottom line to this bottom line, and what Spirit really wants me to convey, and the thing that you have to hear me say, is that perfection is not real. Stop allowing something that is not real to dictate your reality, to order your steps, to prevent you from finding your true joy and happiness. This is just based off of programming. That is a lie. It's rooted in false realities, right? It's rooted in fear. It feeds on fears. And as we know, one acronym for fear is false evidence appearing real. And so we tell ourselves each time we make that attempt, if we're not perfect, then we got to quit. Because I'd rather quit than take the risk of somebody laughing at me, somebody judging me, somebody doing whatever it is, right? Wrong. We have to get away from those notions. And I'm feeling very passionate about this, as you can tell, because this is not just my moments. This is your life. This is our life. If we say that we want to change the world, if we say that we wish that when we turned on the news or we looked at social media that we saw different outcomes, that we saw different reflections, then we have to start within. We have to start with ourselves. And when you start with yourself, then that has a ripple effect that can impact those around you. And then think about those who are around them and those who are around them. By changing yourself, by working on yourself, by taking accountability, by putting in the work, you not only change just yourself, one singular life, but you impact and have the capacity to change everyone around you. That's what you need to understand. It's not about being perfect. It's about putting in effort. It's about accountability. It's about, sure, being triggered, but triggered into growth, into clarity, into ascension, and then awakening to that power that resides within, and then connecting not only to the people who are around you, but to yourself first and foremost. Understand that you have the power and the potential to be excellent at anything you put your mind, heart, and soul to. And if it is something that is in your spirit that tells you that this is something that you want to do, whether it be a dance class, whether it be a business, whether it be going to a restaurant, whether it be talking to a friend, whether it be reconnecting with the old flame, right? Whatever that is, that's your truth within your spirit. We're not talking about the carnal flesh desires, right? We're talking about your true spiritual inclinations. Then that is where you need to go. That is the route that you need to follow. But you know what? I got to come back down from this podium right now because I am just so fired up right now, and I need you to receive this word. Perfection is not real. Do not get in your own way. Do not prevent yourself from achieving your own blessings just because you are too stubborn and you are too fearful to try. And then once you try again. And then once you try again, try again. I think you're getting the message here. The whole thing is to not quit. As long as it feels like a divine calling within yourself, and you have to dig deep, right? You have to dig deep because sometimes that fear of judgment, that embarrassment or whatever else that your flesh is trying to reveal can cover up your true spirit's calling, right? It can shout louder than your calling. So you have to be stubborn. You have to be ready, willing, and able to keep moving forward, keep trying, because if it is your calling, it will continue to call you. Okay, I'm going to end this here because I need you to absorb this word. Listen to this message as many times as you need to, because perfection is not your reality, but effort is. And that's it. Okay, so I really hope you received this word within your spirit. And if you did, definitely make sure that you tune in every single Monday or anytime really. New episodes are released every single Monday morning at 5:55 a.m. Central Standard Time, United States, and can be found syndicated on most major streaming services, including Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, you name it. Search me up. When you look for me, remember it is Marissa Moments, and that is Marissa with one S because, like I always like to say, there is only one me. And in addition to that, find me all over social media. Be sure to share, like, comment, let's be friends, let's walk together. Because the only thing better than walking the journey is to walk it with a friend. And that's it. So until next time, happy healing.